SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast discusses topics which are relevant to the everyday lives of seniors and their caregivers. We are joined by experts who share their knowledge on a variety of issues. SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast offers solutions and resources to create the best quality of life as we age. And now, let's welcome your host, Darlene Mahoney.
Does the idea of searching for senior housing solutions seem overwhelming and you just aren't sure where to even begin? SeniorLivingGuide.com is created just for you. We are here to make sure your senior housing search is easy to navigate and right at your fingertips. We provide details on communities to include retirement, 55 plus, independent, assisted living, skilled nursing, memory care, and even home health and home care solutions, all in one easy-to-navigate website, allowing you to decide which best fits your needs and connecting you directly with those communities and senior solutions. Visit us online today at SeniorLivingGuide.com, and you can start de-stressing. I would like to thank and express our sincere gratitude to our SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast sponsor, Transmed Care Long Distance Medical Transportation. When a loved one with a disability or medical condition needs to relocate, Transmed Care is here to help with safe and secure nationwide medical transport services with an emphasis on comfort and care.
Transmed Care Long Distance Medical Transportation is a business built on care. Another satisfied customer writes,
"My family cannot recommend Transmed Care enough. They made Dad comfortable every single step of the way on a very long trip and went above and beyond to take incredible care of him, and he had a great time. Thank you all for getting Dad safely to his new home."
To learn more about Transmed Care, visit the website at trans-medcare.com.
Thank you for joining us today on this episode. I am super excited because we're going to be talking with Cycling Without Age. It's such a motivational thing that is being offered for seniors. We are joined today on this episode by the founder, Ole, and also the community captain, Pernille. She has a degree in counseling, psychology from TATA Institute of Social Services, or Sciences, I apologize, in Mumbai, which sparked her passion to trying to do things that are meaningful and helpful to others. And we're so glad that she did. And then we have Ole, who is the founder of Cycling Without Age. And he is an entrepreneur believing in changing conventional thinking and inspiring people and organizations to create a better world through focus, purpose, and happiness and kindness. So a little bit about Cycling Without Age, and I'm going to really let them deep dive into what it is. But it's a movement. It was started in 2012 by Ole. And he wanted to help seniors get back on their bicycles. But clearly there's some mobility and health issues and physical issues that can impair that ability. So he found the answer, correct me if I pronounce this wrong as well, a trishaw. And he started offering free bike rides. So I'm really excited to find out what inspired him because his story is absolutely incredible. And they have done over 3 million rides and 650 people served, which I think is super impressive, unless that's increased from the numbers that I have, which it very well might. But anyway, welcome to our podcast, both of you.
Thank you so much, Darlene.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing is most people don't realize this, but we don't record in a studio, which sometimes you can tell, but we are recording today and they are both located in Denmark.
That's right.
So that is really cool. I've never done an international podcast here. So this is really, really great. But this is available throughout the US. So that's the other reason why we're having you on is that the expansion is absolutely incredible. It's really taken off. So tell us a little bit about what triggered this incredible outreach that you've created, Ole.
Yeah, I think it probably goes all the way back to my childhood, and I guess a lot of the ideas that we get as adults can be traced back to stuff that we experienced as children. And in my case, I was only 3 years old when my dad, who was, he was an entrepreneur, he was a very active man, got diagnosed with MS. And it only took him a couple of years. Back in the day, they really had no idea how to diagnose and how to treat illnesses like that. So within a couple of years, he was in a wheelchair. And so this man, this person who was so active and had so many friends, he was so well connected in the local community, he was kind of stuck, within the four walls of his own house. I noticed as well how that had an effect on his quality of life. He became isolated. It led to depressions and so on. But it also gave me an opportunity to sort of harness a very special connection with my dad. And we sort of developed this special relationships and humor. I would take him out, pushing his wheelchair around the neighborhood. And so I kind of became his legs. And we did a lot of cool things back in the day. But I realized that lack of mobility can really have a dramatic impact on how you live your life. And so fast forward to 2012, I was cycling around. Copenhagen is a beautiful cycling city. And I noticed an old man that reminded me of my own dad. He was sitting with a walking frame, and it was clear to me that this was a person who also lacked that mobility. And since Denmark is a country of cyclists, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could become his legs as well? And so I found this contraption, which is like a three-wheeled bike with two wheels in the front and a really comfortable double seat. And I brought it down to the local nursing home and rang the doorbell and thought, could I offer someone a bike ride? Totally expecting them to turn me away and say, are you absolutely mad? You can't do that. But luckily, they humored me. They let me inside. I presented my case, and I got the opportunity to take someone out for a bike ride. That really changed my life because that gave me a whole new perspective. I could see as well how that gave that person a totally different perspective on life. Someone who's stuck indoors, who's only talking to the same few people day in and day out, getting outside. And I heard from the staff when I got back that person that I had taken out for a bike ride, that she'd stopped talking. To me, she had been talking about her life, in that area where she used to, where she grew up and where she had her kids and so on. She was talking nonstop for an hour. So that really told me that there was something magical about these bike rides.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you what really intrigued me when I went on your website is the sheer joy that were on the faces of the seniors that were in the trishaws. It was just so uplifting. And I always think to myself, life is very short, and the older you get, the faster it seems to get shorter. I feel like you should always still live and enjoy life and find new things and all these different things. But clearly, so many, especially seniors, have limiting abilities physically. And I think that the option of this to really just, get that wind in there, almost like riding a roller coaster or getting back on that bike or whatever the case may be, you have to think that it's just got to fill their soul with energy and just life. And it can really provide such a new look on your life to be able to do that. So that's really what was so inspiring to me, to have you join our podcast and talk about what you do provide seniors, and not just on the physical level, because I know that there's actually an aspect to that, because you did share that with me, and I'm going to let you share that as well. But the emotional and mental has to be just life altering when you get to experience this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Pernille, you have some wonderful quotes as well about how that impacts people, particularly the medicine aspect.
Yes, I really feel like Cycling Without Age helps to propose something to people of all ages. There's no agenda on the surface of it, at least, for health benefits or to be more fit. So all of these things happen, but it's sort of hidden behind adventure and just like true happiness and building relationships. I think a lot of people, they feel like they become patients, or that there is something like wrong with growing old. You have to tackle all of the things that have deteriorated. And we sometimes forget in that whole process, what about just enjoying life? And magic actually happens when you look at people holistically as possible and not as patients. But yeah, nevertheless, I think that's what Ole was referring to, is that, we have some wonderful quotes from the passengers. And one of them actually said that it's better than medicine. Without prompting, we all know that it's good for the soul to go outside and be stimulated, meet new people, be part of society, get tired in a good, way, and just enjoy life. That's the best medicine that we can get.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to think, just even you and I, when we go out on a brisk day and we take a walk and we just take in everything that's around us with all the fresh air, there's just a joy and a happiness that fills us just from something so simple on a beautiful day where you just feel rejuvenated, or you view your futures even differently, or it's inspiring. And then also all that fresh air, it can really just make you tired and relaxed, and you have restful sleep afterwards. So there's so many incredible benefits that come with something as simple as a bike ride.
And actually what I think is really mind-blowing is that sometimes when we of course, we pitch the idea. It might be to different, communities where elders live, or to family members, or to nursing homes. Sometimes, of course, we get a bit of pushback because it's seen as something a little bit dangerous or daring, and that's, in a way, a little bit risky as well. But when you actually look at what gives, long and happy and healthy lives, it does involve going outside. You can't just stay inside and get pills and, have a good and healthy life. So when you look at the benefits of this kind of activity, you don't have to only think about the risks. There's just so many more benefits than the risks that we do associate with going outside, and especially on a bike. They outweigh far more the few risks that they might entail.
I absolutely agree with that. That is 100% on point.
I have this wonderful little story as well that maybe also describes it from a different angle as well. But it was one of my passengers a couple of years ago, this lady who wasn't really walking well. So she had a walking frame, and she came up, and I sort of got her onto the bike, and we just did a slow roll through the park. And then we have these beautiful red blankets that are specially made for these bikes, and it was over her legs, and we were just gently riding through the park and greeting dogs and people and chatting and so on. And then she said, what I really like about this bike is that it kind of hides all these little ailments that I have. Like, nobody can see that, my legs are maybe a little crooked now. So, it's got to do with dignity as well, because you don't really necessarily feel like flashing the fact that maybe you can't walk that well anymore. And one of the things that we've found about these bikes remarkably is that they are very dignified. They kind of elevate the person who's on the bike. And if you know the term, the royal wave, the way that royalty, like the British Queen, the Danish Queen, they wave in a special way.
Yes, because all your fingers are all together, yes, except for your thumb.
Exactly, yeah. And they tend to do that. And so I just feel that it is such a remarkable way of being pushed, totally contrary very often to what I experienced with my dad when I was a kid and I pushed him around. He would get infuriated by the fact that people would address his son, who was, I was maybe only 11, 12 years old, maybe at the time. And they would address me rather than him because he was in a wheelchair. But the trishaw just has something about it that means that when you meet people actually address the people who are passengers on the bike. So it kind of elevates them. Actually, another wonderful little story was, and that's not even my experience, but it was one of our volunteers who actually was on Danish radio a couple of years ago as well. And she was riding with her own mum. So she was a caregiver to her own mum. We trained her we call them pilots, those people riding the bikes. And she said, I can't see my mum's face when we were riding, because she's sitting in front of me. But she said, I just looked at her proud neck. And I just love that term. You can just imagine when you see someone from behind and you can just tell the way they are proud and feel dignified, right? One of her takeaways from riding with her mom was that kind of gave her that feeling of being important again, right? and not just someone who's putting a lot of burden on the people around her. No, she's actually there and she means something. She's not just invisible anymore.
Yeah. Describe the trishaw to our listeners, because, I mean, when you really see it, that's so different than what you might think it might be.
I think we sometimes describe it as a couch on wheels. So if you can imagine like a really beautiful, nice couch for two people with a really soft cushion around it, and you get seated there together with maybe a special someone next to you. The back of the bike is like a normal bike, but then you have this double seat in front. And so the pilot or the person riding the bike sits behind. And so basically you're three people sitting on the bike and you've all got the same perspective. You know the way when you're chatting to someone, it can be a little tricky if you're sitting actually facing each other. Whereas if you're just riding along and you're all facing in the same direction, you don't necessarily have to talk all the time. It could be a couple of minutes where you're really just taking in experiences and looking around, and then something suddenly sparks a conversation. And that even goes for people, have memory loss. They might, in some cases, not say anything, but then suddenly maybe after 10, 15 minutes, something looks familiar, and then they'll start talking, which they may not have done for like months, which is also one amazing, remarkable thing that we found.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that they're in front and not behind the bike, because it's almost like being on like their own private ride. There's nothing inhibiting them from seeing their surroundings, having the wind blown in their hair, and just kind of enjoying and getting into the entire adventure. That, and they don't know where they're going as well. So I think that that's really cool, is that you're on it, you're on this path, and you're not following behind someone where you can kind of see. And that would almost, I think, would be the focus, is the person in front of you versus, seeing everything that is going on in the world around you. So I think that that's the really cool part about this, and that two people can ride. So you can go on it with your significant other if you're still, married or what have you, or if you've created some amazing friendships, if you're living in a senior living community, that you can go on that ride. So it's an adventure you can talk about after the fact with someone that participated and enjoyed the same things. And that can be like something that you talk about for a very long time and regale in the stories of enjoying that particular event. So I think that part is really cool as well. So I wanted to ask you, I specifically said just a little bit about the reach of the folks that are enjoying this, because as I mentioned, you all are in Copenhagen, but it's all over the US as well, this ability to enjoy the trishaws. So tell me a little bit about your reach, how many people you've served. And I know I did see this and I did not share it, because I would love for you to share it as well, because that information may have changed as well, is the oldest person that has enjoyed the trishaw.
Yeah, I think the oldest person so far is 110 years old.
Oh, shut the front door. That is the coolest. That is the coolest. You know what? And that was probably something they marked right off their bucket list. And how fabulous is that?
Yeah, we have a little fact box on the website where I just looked it up because I couldn't remember, but it's Pauline Engelman, who was 110 when she had her ride. I think she's passed away now. I think she lived until she was 112 or something like that. But she had her last ride at 110. And actually, there is another remarkable story about longevity. So Pernille and I took one of our friends out for a bike ride a couple of months ago to celebrate her 104th birthday. But we actually started riding with her when she was 96. So we've known her for 8 years now. And so it also goes to prove how people can just get into the habit of this and they can't stop riding.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You get that adrenaline going. You want to do it again, no doubt. It's like really riding a roller coaster.
Totally. So the global reach, because it has definitely inspired people all over the world, is that Cycling Without Age is in 39 countries. And in the US, we have about 250 chapters, we call them, who are riding like every day with people with all kinds of backgrounds and all kinds of abilities. So what has made us, a little bit, you can say successful, because in 10 years, that is a lot of people. It's 650,000 people served. I think what has sparked the interest is, that there is, of course, a lot of focus on elders, and we are growing older, and we, of course, still expect and should expect full lives as we grow older. And also this idea of inclusive cities, the whole urban planning, and also catering to people who are not just going to work or, making money, but who are also in the city to create relationships and to get experiences. I think that we're kind of tapping into something that is quite important right now. Inclusive, livable cities and meaningful lives, no matter your age. So we have reached a lot of people like that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true and excellent. I absolutely agree with that. So I do want to take a break, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about the impact that it's had on people, and then also where our listeners can connect with you directly online to find out where they can access the rides. Or I'm going to also let you share how you can be the driver of the bike, if that's maybe what it's called. But we'll get into that a little bit as well. So we're going to take a break for our sponsors, and then we will be right back.
Hi, this is Andrew Brainerd, owner of TransMedCare Long Distance Medical Transportation. We are proud to help make this podcast possible. When a loved one under medical care needs to relocate, TransMedCare is here to help. We offer the very best in nationwide medical transport with fully appointed vehicles and a team of caring medical professionals. At TransMedCare, nothing is more important than bringing your loved one home safely. Visit our website at trans-medcare.com.
Thank you for joining us again on this podcast episode, and we want to thank TransMedCare Long Distance Medical Transportation as our sponsor and for their support. So I just wanted to ask you, Ole, so share a little bit more about stories and how it's affected people's lives, because I know that that's one thing that we really wanted to talk about as well, a little bit more in depth.
I have collected so many wonderful stories and quotes from people when they're out riding, and you only need to go online and search for some of those pictures as well, and you can see these amazing stories, like when they are out riding and suddenly there's a dog that comes along, and it's the best thing that's happened for a long time to that little party of people rolling along. But one quote from a really good friend of mine who's a 94-year-old gentleman called Carl, when we took him out for a bike ride last year, and we were sort of curious as to why he was getting so much into those rides. I mean, he basically gets rides every single day, even throughout the winter when it's really cold in Copenhagen. And he said, it's really hard to describe, but it's kind of has an invigorating and liberating effect. He lives in a care home, but he could also be someone who lives in his own home and doesn't really see many people. But he said, going out on these bike rides feels like he's part of life again. I think it's such a powerful statement, because when you've lived a long life and you've made a beautiful, wonderful contribution to society, you deserve to be part of life. You deserve to live right until the end and not just be parked somewhere in an apartment or in a care home. And that's kind of that liberation or freedom that we offer. And I think Carl maybe doesn't even know why it has that liberating and invigorating effect. But I'm absolutely convinced that it's also because there are some neurological things at play as well. And Pernille, maybe you want to talk about that study that we're part of.
Yes, absolutely. Our organization has been investigated, you can say, by researchers who are making a project called When Movement Moves. And they have found evidence that even though you're not actually physical on these cycling without age rides, if you are the passenger and you are actually sitting and not moving as the pilot who is riding is, it still gives you physical exercise, which still to me is mind-blowing, and I don't know how to explain it, but researchers have done the research. You actually build, your muscles, you get the exercise, because maybe you're mirroring what the pilot is doing somehow, or maybe, you remember that sensation of physical exercise because you're actually in the midst of it. Maybe it's because you're on that trishaw together. I don't know how to explain the physiological effects, but I think it is very interesting. In general, I just love all of that research that we're always trying to look at for cycling without age. Just the benefit of stimulating the senses, I think when you talk about elders in general, is so fascinating. It is, kind of what keeps us alive and keeps us alert. We are sensing organisms when we go out on the rides. We get sun, maybe a bit of rain. We always want to be out. And like you said, Darlene, it's all about feeling the wind in your hair. It's actually very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can just picture, and hopefully some of our listeners will visit your website, because the videos that are on there really, they translate that, exactly what you shared. It definitely translates with some of that. So how can they access and find out more about this?
Well, I think there are definitely, you could go online and look at the website and check out the map. So there's a map where you can find if there's a chapter near you. And in many cases, those chapters will be associated either with a senior community, retirement community, or a nursing home. That doesn't necessarily mean that it may be accessible to everyone, but we've set up Cycling Without Age in such a way that anyone can join, and it's free. Of course, there is the Trishaw that is a little bit pricey. That's really the only expense of getting started. But considering the impact it has, it's definitely worth it. If somebody's interested, find out if there's a chapter nearby and get in contact with them. These are wonderful people that's part of Cycling Without Age. We have this really giving and caring community. So you can either send them an email or call them and have a conversation about their experiences, or in whichever way you can join the program.
Yeah, I also want to, invite anyone who, regardless of their age, who would like to know more, if they don't have a chapter right near to them. Of course, in Cycling Without Age, we are fighting ageism. So if you want to start an activity like this, but you are not yourself going to ride the bike, we will still be able to support you and help your community get this started. And you will be part of that team, even though you're not going to ride the bike. Everybody's welcome.
Yeah, and actually how I found you to invite you on the podcast is a senior living community here in the U.S. shared their personal story, seeing their pictures that they shared, and it was shared on their social media site, to be honest with you. It was very inspiring. Just because you're older or you're a senior doesn't mean you still can't have an ongoing bucket list. I think that you should always still live your life to the fullest, regardless of what age you are. I think it's so important. I love the fact that this is being offered in the U.S., and I think more people need to get on board, some of our senior living communities, clearly. But, our seniors that are aging in place, doesn't matter where you're at in life, you should be able to enjoy something of this nature. So that to me is what's really cool.
And I think what my dream is that these rides are available to communities all over the place. I think it's like a human right. And I think something that we may not have talked enough about, and we can keep talking about forever and ever and ever, is the importance of relationships. Because I do get the sense that we have structured society for segregation and not for relationships. And can you imagine what the world would look like if every single decision that was made, also by decision makers, was judged based on whether that promoted relationships or promoted segregation? One of the things that I look for evidence that what we're doing is helping people build relationships. And I have this very tiny little story. It may sound insignificant, but it's this woman that I ride with from time to time, and she always stops at a shop and sends me in shopping. And I know she does that for some of the other volunteers as well. As soon as I'm back out after maybe 5 or 10 minutes, she's surrounded by random people that she's chatting up, right? She lives in a retirement community, but she's not really using that a lot. I think she's known down there as being a little bit solitary. But when she's out on town, that's where she seizes the moment and starts chatting to people. And I think it makes her feel that she belongs to that community, that she is someone. It's such an important aspect of quality of life, that you feel that you belong, that you are connected with other people, and that you are still able to build relationships even at a very high age. So I think that's just like a little tiny story, but I think it just goes to prove how important it is for us to feel that we matter to someone else.
Yeah. There was a story of a senior who was she was like 100 and something. I'm not sure what age she was exactly, but her bucket list was to jump out of an airplane. And I'm thinking to myself, good on you, girl, because that is not even on close to my bucket list. But she died within a week afterwards, and she died in her sleep very peacefully. And I thought that was inspiring in the fact that she did live her best life. She did do like jumping out of an airplane. Crazy lady. But, she died very peacefully and in a good place. And I think it would be lovely if all of us could go in that same manner. I'll never forget my mother, who told me that she looks and feels like she's in her 20s, but then she looks in the mirror and she wasn't. I remember her telling me that, and I think it was a conversation where I probably said, Mom, you don't want to do that, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, you don't understand. I know that in your mind, and you look at me and you see, an older person, but I don't feel that way. I still have the same energy and the same desires and the same wants that I did in my 20s. And my body is just the one fighting against me, but everything inside my mind and in my heart and in my soul is young. I think that's the takeaway.
Yeah, exactly.
Please share your website information.
cyclingwithoutage.org.
Perfect. You can email, and is there a phone number on there as well to get additional information?
Yes. On the website, there will be like how to become an affiliate. There's an email address you can write to, and there are our phone numbers as well. And then, of course, we are also on Facebook, Cycling Without Age, Instagram, Cycling Without Age, and we look forward to hearing from you. We look forward to welcoming you into our community if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what I look forward to?
Tell me.
I look forward to getting you on that bike, Darlene. I think you'd be perfect on that bike. I think you'd be perfect as a pilot, but as a passenger, you would be probably even more perfect, because you'd be sitting there chatting to someone sitting next to you and chatting to everybody that you meet. So is that a deal?
Oh, I will do it. You tell me when and I'll be there.
Fantastic.
I would love it. Yeah, no, 100%. I don't know about the driving the bike. That kind of scares me, but I would definitely sit and enjoy it and make friends all day long.
Awesome.
Absolutely. All right. Is there any closing remarks or thoughts that you wanted to share before we sign off on this podcast?
I just want to say I really enjoyed this conversation. I think I just love these fireside chats where you just get a chance to just sit and, discuss all the aspects and, not really have an agenda, but just talk about it. And there are always these wonderful little nuggets that come out of it. And I really hope has inspired some people to get in touch with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one reason we wanted to do this kind of even at this time of year is, as everyone is kind of thinking about going into the next year, people have their New Year's resolutions. I still think people really need to consider and say, what do I want in my life going into the next year? What can I add to it to make it different? Whether it is volunteering to drive one of these, if this is inspiring to them and this is their thing, it's something that you've put potentially in someone's plans for next year. But as a senior and caregivers of seniors, I think it just motivates to have a more potentially joyful year next year and give people something to look forward to and to investigate as an option that they maybe did not know existed. Everyone makes all these New Year's resolutions, but I think people are starting to really think about what they want in their life for next year. And this is not one where you have to starve yourself or you have to go, get on a treadmill. So those are the two most, used New Year's resolutions that by February, everyone's done. So, but this is totally different. So I think that that's what's really cool.
And it's definitely going to make you happy as well.
Yes. And happiness in 2024 for all it's up there with world peace. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it. And for our listeners, please visit the website, cyclingwithoutage.org, for more information on how you can either volunteer or how you can enjoy.
Thank you so much, Darlene.
Thank you.
Thank you all.